Every Tuesday at noon, Jordan Harris fulfilled a promise he'd made to Mrs. Ellis 2 months ago. He'd deliver her brown bag lunch, turkey wrap, apple wedges, and iced tea when her arthritis flare-ups left her housebound. Today, the sky was an unbroken sheet of summer blue as Jordan jogged up the sidewalk, lunch tucked securely beneath his arm. He rounded the corner to 142 Maple Street where the Mitchells lived. A young white couple he barely knew, but whose knock-and-drop request for spare fruit salad he'd agreed to when they'd run out of groceries. He paused on the pale flagstone porch and rapped thrice on the door. No rustle of curtains, no footsteps behind frosted glass. He tried again, louder. "Delivery for the Mitchells!" His voice carried across the manicured lawn, stirring a few dandelion heads as it bounced off the brick. He glanced left and right, half expecting them to appear, arms folded in polite apology. But the house remained silent. Jordan set the lunch bag down by the door and reached into his pocket. He tapped the doorbell, waited, then slipped in his business card beneath the welcome mat with a friendly note. "Left extra fruit salad for you. Hope your week's going well. Jordan." He gave a final look back. The front windows were shuttered tight, the porch light off, not so much as a curtain twitch. His pulse fluttered. Earlier that morning, when he'd waved at Mr. Mitchell through the living room window, the man had turned away, eyes trained on his phone. Jordan wondered if the Mitchells thought his kindness was intrusion, or worse, simply overlooked him because of the color of his skin. He inhaled, forced a calm smile, and turned down the street toward Mrs. Ellis's house, determined not to let one closed door define him. As he approached Mrs. Ellis's porch, she greeted him from her rocker, her smile bright despite the stiffness in her joints. He handed over her lunch, and she clasped his hand in gratitude. "You always remember," she said. "Thank you, dear." Jordan felt warmth return to his chest, reassured that his goodwill still mattered somewhere. Later that afternoon, as he passed 142 Maple on his way home, a thin curl of smoke drifted from the Mitchells' second-floor window, just above the very porch that had refused his knock. Jordan's heart jolted. The afternoon sun caught the smoke in ribbons against the red brick. He sprinted back up the walkway, adrenaline surging. "Hello? Mitchells!" His unanswered knock now carried not neighborly courtesy, but urgent alarm. And Jordan realized that the very house that had shut him out might need him more than ever. Jordan's heart slammed as he sprinted up the porch steps, chest tightening with every gasp of smoke in the afternoon air. He reached the front door, grasped the doorknob, and it spun freely, unlocked. He yanked it open into a haze of acrid smoke and stumbled into a small entryway. His eyes stung as he peered up the staircase. Orange tongues licked the banister's edge, and the carpet smoldered underfoot. He dropped low and pressed his back to the wall, inhaling through his shirt to filter the heat. He shouted, "Mrs. Mitchell! Mr. Mitchell!" His voice was swallowed by the roar of the fire. Climbing on hands and knees, Jordan crept up 3 steps. Rain boots filled with grit from the yard thudded on the landing. He paused at the top, where the hallway split left and right. To his left, behind a cracked bedroom door, the glow was brighter, likely the source. Edging forward, he pushed the door fully open. Inside, orange light painted the walls. A single window framed a sky now obscured by soot, and beneath it lay overturned furniture and a small mattress. Jordan's eyes darted across the clutter until he spotted a form curled against the far wall. A little boy, no older than 5, coughing and curled around his teddy bear. "Hey, buddy," Jordan rasped, voice gentle but urgent. He ducked into the room, each breath a fight against choking smoke. "I'm here to help. Let's get you out of here." He reached the child's trembling shoulder and scooped him into his arms. The boy's eyes were wide with terror, snot running as he gasped for air. Jordan pressed the boy's face into his shoulder, wrapping an arm around him. He turned and crawled backward, hand trailing the wall to guide him through the haze. The hallway's smoke thickened, heat crawling down Jordan's neck. He forced himself forward, a slow, desperate inching until he felt the banister on his left and the top step beneath his knee. 1 push, then 2, and he was back at the stairwell. He rose to his feet, smoke billowed in his face, and sprinted down, each step guided by muscle memory. At the bottom, heat from the living room hit him full on. Furniture crackled as fire spread along the carpet. Jordan dodged a collapsing side table and burst through the front door, coughing as he emerged into cooler air. He crossed the porch, almost stumbling on the lunch bag he'd left earlier, and carried the boy into the street where neighbors had gathered in shock. A woman rushed forward with a blanket. Another offered water. Jordan set the child down gently, checking for burns. The boy's tears streaked black against soot, but his eyes were alive with relief as he clung to Jordan's leg. "Thank you," he whimpered. Behind them, sirens wailed. Firefighters charged up the sidewalk as Jordan stepped back, shoulders heaving. The little boy's mother appeared, frantic relief on her face. She scooped him into her arms, choking out gratitude through tears. Jordan swallowed the acrid taste in his mouth and nodded. The neighbors, once too polite to greet him, now surrounded him with hushed thanks and applause. As firefighters wrestled hoses against the blaze, Jordan realized that in crossing the Mitchells' threshold one last time, he had saved the most precious delivery of all, a child's life. The morning after the rescue, Maple Street felt different, as if the very air carried the echo of Jordan's footsteps and the warmth of a community transformed. He jogged past 142, pausing to find the Mitchells' front lawn, now dotted with fresh flower pots, and a hand-painted sign reading, "Thank you, Jordan." Neighbors who once averted their eyes now waved as he passed, their smiles tentative but genuine. Inside the Mitchell home, now airing out last night's soot, Jordan was invited in by Mr. and Mrs. Mitchell themselves, faces etched with remorse and relief. In the living room, toddler Alex sat nestled on his mother's lap, teddy bear in hand but bright-eyed and curious. Mrs. Mitchell took Jordan's hand, voice choked. I'm so sorry we ignored your knock. You came back for a lunch delivery, but you saved our son's life." Tears pooled in her eyes as she embraced him. Jordan felt the full weight of every unopened door he'd faced, now replaced by the open arms of gratitude. Over steaming cups of coffee in the kitchen, the Mitchells explained how they'd been blindsided by an electrical fault in the upstairs wiring. They had slept through the initial crackle, mistook the smoke alarm for a faulty battery, and never heard Jordan's first knock. "We treated your kindness like a nuisance," Mr. Mitchell admitted, voice trembling. "You showed us what true neighborliness means." Jordan nodded, heart soft, as Alex toddled over and pressed a crayon drawing into his palm. A sketch of Jordan handing him his lunch bag, flames dancing behind them. By midday, word of the fire and the rescue had spread up and down the block. Neighbors organized a gratitude cook-off on the sidewalk. Kids sold lemonade, retirees grilled hot dogs, and the local bakery donated muffins for a fundraiser to replace the Mitchells' damaged possessions. Jordan found himself at the grill, laughing as he flipped patties beside Mrs. Ellis, who insisted on contributing her famous potato salad. The event raised more than enough to cover cleaning bills and new lunch bags for Jordan's weekly deliveries. That afternoon, Alex, now wearing a miniature firefighter helmet, followed Jordan around the front yard as he refolded his delivery bag. The boy's small hand slipped into Jordan's. "You're my hero," Alex declared. Jordan knelt, meeting his eyes. "Heroes are just neighbors doing what's right," he said gently. Alex beamed and scampered back to join the cook-off, leaving Jordan to reflect on how one act of persistence, his unanswered knock, his return to the fire, had kindled a blaze of compassion that would burn long after the smoke cleared. In the week after, the cook-off Maple Street buzzed with renewed purpose. Jordan Harris arrived on Saturday morning to find Mrs. Ellis's porch transformed into a makeshift planning HQ. Folding chairs, a chalkboard sign reading, "Neighborhood Resilience Meeting, 10 a.m., and half a dozen neighbors armed with notepads and enthusiasm. Jordan took his seat beside Mrs. Mitchell and Mr. Mitchell, both looking healthier, their faces still tinged with gratitude. At the front, Mrs. Ellis cleared her throat. "We're here to make sure a fire or an ignored knock never puts us at risk again," she announced. Heads nodded around the circle. Teachers, retirees, young parents, and even Mr. Jones from next door, who'd once ignored Jordan's knock without a second thought. Their first order of business: weekly check-in deliveries. Jordan's brown bag route would expand. Every Tuesday, he'd deliver lunches to Mrs. Ellis, plus a small safety kit to every household, a pair of fresh smoke alarm batteries, fire escape plans printed on waterproof cardstock, and a folded note reminding neighbors they could call on each other anytime. Volunteers signed up in pairs to rotate routes, so no one ever felt the loneliness of a silent door. Next came fire safety workshops in partnership with the Maple Street Fire Station. Chief Rivera agreed to host monthly Eyes on Smoke classes right in the block's cul-de-sac. Jordan watched as children, from toddler Alex to eager teenagers, practiced crawling under low beams, tested escape ladders against a garage wall, and learned to dial 911 from a replica phone stand. Parents asked questions. Mrs. Mitchell demonstrated how to roll out a burning pan safely. Even Mr. Jones thanked the chief for showing him how a single battery change could save a life. By Sunday evening, the Mitchells had turned their living room into community cozy night. Their couch and chairs circled around a stack of donated fireproof blankets. Neighbors brought soups and stews, sharing bowls and stories. How Jordan's return to 142 Maple had reminded them that kindness can blaze brighter than any flame. Laughter wove through the room as the table's centerpiece. The teddy bear Jordan had rescued from Alex, now perched atop a fire safety manual. On Tuesday, Jordan set out on his new route with two neighbors, handing out lunches and safety kits door to door. Each delivery ended with a smile and a promise. "I'll see you next week." At 142 Maple, Mrs. Mitchell pressed a fresh batch of brownies into Jordan's hand. "For your next delivery," she joked. Jordan tucked them in his bag, thinking how far they'd come from that first unanswered knock. As dusk fell, Jordan paused at the corner of Maple and Elmwood, watching smoke alarm batteries charge on Mrs. Ellis's porch light. The street's lampposts cast soft pools of light on freshly planted saplings, each one a hope tree the neighbors had donated, meant to symbolize the life they'd saved together. Jordan took a deep breath of the cool evening air, heart full. In rebuilding trust, they had forged a stronger bond than any front door could keep closed. A bond that would endure every spark, every knock, and every shared step towards safety and solidarity. Spring melted into summer as Maple Street's transformation rippled outward. What began with one unanswered knock and a daring rescue had grown into a neighborhood-wide network of vigilance and care, one Jordan Harris could scarcely have imagined on that first timid delivery. On a warm July evening, Jordan returned to the cul-de-sac for the Maple Street Block Party and Safety Fair, hosted by Mrs. Ellis and the Mitchells on their now lush front lawns. Strings of lanterns danced overhead. Children wove between tables of grilled corn and lemonade stands, while fire trucks gleamed at the curb, drawn from every nearby station for the celebration of community resilience. Jordan stepped onto a small stage beneath a banner reading, "Together we shine brighter than fire." He listened as Chief Rivera handed out certificates to every volunteer who delivered lunches, installed smoke alarms, or led escape drill workshops. When it was Jordan's turn, the chief placed a golden heart-shaped badge on his lapel. "For your courage and your call to action," Rivera said, "Maple Street is safer because of you." Applause rippled through the crowd. Neighbors old and new, black, white, Latino, and Asian, every face alight with genuine pride. Jordan rose to speak. "2 months ago, I left a lunch bag at the Mitchell's door and thought my work was done. But when that door stayed closed and fire threatened, it showed me how one person's concern can ignite a movement of compassion. Tonight isn't about me, it's about every one of you who answered a knock, climbed a ladder, or shared a blanket. You are Maple Street's true heroes." As his words settled, children raced to the fire truck's ladder, volunteers led impromptu CPR demos, and neighbors swapped stories of how a simple fruit salad delivery had grown into lasting friendships. Proof that safety and solidarity walked hand in hand. Before the lanterns were extinguished, Mrs. Mitchell unveiled the final touch, a small memorial plaque affixed to the old magnolia tree at the corner. It read, "In honor of the day, we learned that a closed door can open a community. May this street forever stand ready to answer every knock with care." Jordan placed a hand on the smooth bark, feeling its lifeline pulsing beneath. He smiled as the lantern's glow danced across Maple Street's fresh-painted curbs, each bearing the words, "Check-in Tuesdays" in green. As neighbors drifted home under the night sky, Jordan knew their work would never truly end. Fires could flare up again, baked days could scorch new dangers, and doors might sometimes stay closed. But now every house on Maple Street was backed by watchful eyes, open hearts, and the certainty that one caring knock could start a flame of hope, and that an entire community would always be ready to answer. By early autumn, Maple Street's transformation had caught the attention of the entire city. Jordan Harris arrived at City Hall for a special neighborhood safety summit, where mayors and community leaders from every district gathered to learn how a single block turned tragedy into triumph. He stepped to the podium beneath a projection of the Maple Street model, Green curbs, block parties, mobile safety kits, flanked by Chief Rivera and Mrs. Ellis. Maple Street proved that resilience isn't just an emergency plan, Jordan began, voice steady. No, it's a promise that no neighbor stands alone. He unveiled the Answer the Knock toolkit, step-by-step guides for block captains, safety kit checklists, and a smartphone app to coordinate deliveries and drills. Applause rippled through the hall as city officials exchanged eager glances. Over the next weeks, Jordan and a volunteer delegation crisscrossed the city, training residents in every ward. In Northside, retired veterans installed smoke alarms in walk-up apartments. In Westwood, church groups hosted CPR classes in their fellowship halls. In Lakeshore, high schoolers packed lunch and safety kits for their elderly neighbors. Each block adopted the green curb markers and scheduled monthly check-in Tuesdays. Meanwhile, the Mitchells invited Jordan back to 142 Maple for the unveiling of a new community resilience center in their renovated garage. Painted in warm tones and fitted with first aid supplies, charging stations, and a lending library of safety gear, it became the neighborhood's gathering place. Mrs. Mitchell cut the ribbon as children in firefighter hats cheered, and Jordan felt the full circle of his journey. From a brown bag lunch left unclaimed to a hub that would keep every knock answered for years to come. That November, the City Council unanimously passed the Neighborhood Bonds of Care Ordinance, codifying the principles Jordan had championed: volunteer delivery networks, mandatory block-wide safety drills, and funding for resilience centers in every council district. Councilmember Tran presented Jordan with a framed citation for forging a community that answers every knock with compassion and building a city where no call for help goes unanswered. As winter's first frost glazed the street lamp posts, Jordan paused beneath the magnolia tree's crisp branches. The green curb, once fresh paint, had weathered into a permanent reminder of hope. He placed a hand on the tree's trunk, feeling its years of growth echo Maple Street's own journey. With a final nod to Mrs. Ellis and the Mitchells, who now co-chaired the citywide Resilience Council, Jordan stepped back. His work complete, the movement entrusted to every neighbor who had learned to answer the knock. 2 years after that first unanswered delivery, Maple Street glowed under summer twilight, each porch light a beacon of the community's promise to never leave a knock unheard. Jordan Harris stood at the corner of Maple and Elmwood, now crowned with a bronze plaque reading, "Here, every knock meets a helping hand." He watched children chase fire truck-painted scooters past freshly planted oaks, and neighbors paused on their porches to wave as he jogged by. Earlier that day, Jordan had delivered the 10,000th safety and snack kit, a milestone marked by a celebratory block picnic hosted by the Mitchells and Mrs. Ellis. The mobile lab bus rolled in to offer free STEM demos. Local chefs served pizza slices alongside first aid demonstrations run by volunteer EMTs. When Jordan handed the insulated kit to 7-year-old Ava Mitchell, she pressed a thank you note into his hand, a crayon heart encircling the words, "You'll always be our neighbor." That evening, Oakwood University's lecture hall overflowed as Jordan took the stage for the National Neighborhood Resilience Summit. Mayors and community organizers from 20 states gathered to hear how one street turned a moment of crisis into a blueprint for caring. Jordan recounted his journey, brown bag in hand, an unlocked door, the flames that revealed neighbors' true colors, and unveiled the latest toolkit update, a multilingual app that maps every certified Answer the Knock block nationwide. From the front row, Mrs. Ellis raised her hand. When Jordan called on her, she said, voice rich with pride, "Your first knock was for a turkey wrap. Your last saved a life. In between, you taught us that community is the truest firebreak. Thank you." The crowd rose in a standing ovation that rippled through the rafters. Back on Maple Street later that night, Jordan jogged the final block by moonlight. He paused at 142, where the Mitchells had repainted their door a warm coral and hung a wreath of magnolia blossoms. Through the window, he glimpsed Alex, now a tall middle schooler, holding a flashlight over a model fire truck, practicing his own drills. Jordan smiled, stepping onto the porch. As Alex flicked the light off and on, their eyes met in a silent salute, the unspoken bond between a rescuer and the rescued. Jordan turned homeward, footsteps echoing on the lamplit sidewalk. Each green curb bore the words, "Check-in Tuesdays," and every window showed signs of life. Curtains drawn open, family dinners in progress, exhaustion met with security. In that soft glow, Jordan understood that the true legacy of his run and his rescue was not a single heroic moment, but the everyday kindness woven into every knock on every door. And as he disappeared into the night, Maple Street stood ready, ever vigilant, ever caring, and ever answering the call.